You got it on mic, kid. You got it on mic. Friday. How we doing? How we doing? Who wants to get us started? Hopefully somebody with some more energy than me. What do we got going good? I see so many smiling faces with your profile images. Are we all smiling behind these profile images? What do we got? Well, I will share gratitude for somebody who is on this call. Our friend Steve Hen. We had a funny exchange last night. I was just doing a something on my story for our follow-up call that we do that Lauren does on Thursdays, and I wanted to tag Steve, and he gave me a social media handle that was not his real estate handle. It's just kind of something that he's used for social. And I was like, hey, you got to do one for your realtor life. And I tell people that probably all the time. We've been talking a lot about social, but within, I don't know, I felt like 15 minutes, Steve set up a profile, created a bio, nice and professional, and all excited. I tag him, stories going. He hits me back. They took his account down. He's like, what the heck? So his account got flagged. It might be the quickest flag in the history of creating an Instagram profile. He no longer had an Instagram profile. And then 2 minutes later, he, I don't know if you fought it or whatever, and he was back. So check out Steve Hen's profile. Sure to be a great profile, but that made me smile last night. But the moral of the story is just take action, man. I know you've had a lot to deal with since you joined our org, but I know there's a fire in there, and there's been a few opportunities where you could have taken action. You helped out our organization, you've helped out yourself, and so appreciate you, buddy. And thanks for making me smile last night. So who else has got something? We got Finance Friday. We got the finance boys on, Dan and Eric. Anybody have a finance question that we want to get started with? And I thought we would also, like, as I've been trying to figure out how do we build this thing better for 2025, and been trying to look at some like themes to the different days. I thought we would turn Finance Friday into just general finance as well, right? So could be personal finance, could be like, hey, I'm still banking at my local credit union. Does anybody have any options for me? I want to move to online. I want to stop getting 0.000001 on my savings, and instead I'd like to be getting 5% in a high yield savings online account. And how do I do that, right? So that's kind of what I want to turn it Fridays into as well. So if we have personal finance questions, we have investing questions. That's kind of what I want to make the focus for Fridays. Does that sound good? Thumbs up if that sounds good. Awesome. So let's do that. Let's start with mortgage. Anybody have anything? By the way, just so you know, if you turn your camera on, you are more likely to get called on. So I absolutely love cameras on, but you jump right to the center of my screen in my command center. So as much as I want those cameras on, I love seeing your smiling faces. Just know you do that and you may get called on. So Dan and Eric, maybe you guys got something for our lively crowd this morning. What do you guys have?
Morning, everybody. It's Eric here. Dan's actually not going to be on today, so you just got me. I think this week I've been watching a lot of our pipeline. We've been getting a lot of clear to closes. It looks like a lot of people are getting all their items in. I think yesterday, I had 6 clear to closes come out in the pipeline. So files are moving along nice and smooth over at Semper. Getting a lot of people that are going to get into their houses today and Monday so that they can be in there before the holiday if they wanted. So that's always exciting. I think the next 2 weeks, a lot of people try to kind of say, oh, what can we do? The holidays in the middle of the week, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I think with us in real estate and mortgages, it's going to create an extended weekend. So we could actually create some activity by having these like kind of longer weekends. It feels like. So hopefully, everybody takes advantage of it rather than kind of kicking their feet up, thinking that the holidays are going to kill the weeks. I feel like we could have some big weekends, especially right after Christmas.
Yeah, I think beginning of next week could be difficult, but the reach outs during, between Christmas and New Year, you got people home. It's definitely slower time and definitely a good time to get people on the phones for sure. So we have no real estate questions out there. Every deal that you guys have is just going oh so smooth. Come on, I know that's not the case. Dustin, what hoop
Not a
are you trying to
question.
jump through to keep a deal together?
So it's kind of just something that's blown up. And honestly, it has a lot to do with just the stubbornness of one of my clients. But long story short, I have a couple that they were looking to purchase a property here in Florida. But they had two properties that they had to sell up in New Jersey. They ended up selling one, which was their primary residence, and they were under contract for about 6 months on a separate property that they were using as a rental. The investors that were purchasing the property, they were starting to ask them to do some pretty risky things, like fraudulent things, actually. And my clients didn't feel comfortable with it, and they didn't want to move forward with anything because they felt like they were being dishonest. But in the process, part of the contract stated that they needed to clear all liens and remove the tenants from the property, which my clients did. They removed everything, cleared title. The tenants were moved out. And at one point, the buyers actually backed out or tried to back out for another reason, and they came back, and it was just kind of like all over the place. Well, my clients were pretty fed up with it, especially having lost a tenant over it. They spent a lot of money to get things cleared up. And then all of a sudden, these buyers come up and they're asking for them to falsely report numbers that from rental incomes and stuff like that to get the home in a better position in order to purchase. I'm not sure the logistics of everything. I wasn't involved in that deal, but I had to kind of keep an eye on it. So that way, when they moved down here, we were using the funds for this purchase. So, long story short, fast forward 2 months, they canceled the contract and everything. My clients, the sellers for that property, they canceled the contract. They moved into this rental property because it needed some major renovations, and they put close to, I want to say, $200,000 in updates for this home. And they were just slapped with a court order, or actually, sorry, like a formal complaint, and they're being charged with 5 separate accounts, one being fraud and breach of contract. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So they're kind of backed into a corner right now, and things are blowing up because the reason they canceled it was because of the fraudulent things that the buyer was asking for. But now they're in hot water, and all the while their deadline is like 7 days from now that they have to get a response, and there's no attorneys or anything like that are willing to take a case in that short term of time. But I guess my ask is there anybody that maybe has someone good up north, New Jersey, New York, anywhere that might be even like a dual license, like litigation attorney or anything like that? Any help that they can get, they appreciate. They've been calling as many people as they
Hey,
can, but
Shasta,
like I was,
I
yeah.
just I just want to try and summarize, make sure I understand what's going on. So
Mhm,
you've got a seller in New Jersey who
mhm.
had a buyer. Buyer asked them to do some weird things to report some numbers. They didn't feel comfortable. Uh, they canceled the contract, or they thought they canceled the contract. Moved into the property, did some updates, and now those buyers are saying, "Wait a second, we still want to buy the property."
Yeah, the buyers still want to buy the property, and they're upset that the sellers
Okay, so
canceled. Yeah,
yeah, did we have a signed uh, release and termination of the first deal by both parties?
absolutely. Escrow
Okay,
funds were returned.
so
Yeah.
why would the buyers think they have a right to purchase the property?
That is where our confusion comes in. And I'm not trying to get too involved in terms of like all the legal jargon and stuff on the documents, so I
Yep.
can't answer that question for them. And the problem is trying to find an attorney that's willing to work with them that will dive in to answer those questions.
Okay.
And they
But
yeah,
we
and they've got.
but we 100%, like, you thought these buyers were just gone. You have no idea how they've come back into the picture.
Oh, absolutely. We thought that
Yeah.
this was 2 months. They wouldn't have poured. And this order now states that they can't rent the property, which my clients had a lease agreement signed to start January 1st with a new tenant to put in place. There's multiple units here.
Right.
Um, and they also cannot do any renovations. They've already put
So,
$200,000.
so these buyers went to the courts and said, wait a second, we have a right to that property. They are trying to sell it to somebody else. We want you to stop whatever they're doing because here's some sort of
Yes.
documentation they must have given to the court to say we have rights to the property.
Yeah, and we don't even know what it was that they provided or anything. I mean, it's literally just
So,
this form that the attorney sat on for
yeah,
about 8 days.
right. And so, along with whatever they got served, there's no explanation. It just says you've got to halt all operations.
Yeah, it states and again, this is like I'm getting bits and pieces because I'm not
Yeah,
as involved as what I'm sure they'd like me to be, but
yeah,
the son that was handling a lot of this as well forwarded a ton of information like emails and text
yeah.
messages showing all this stuff. So I'm just kind of getting like bits and pieces of the story, but
And
from what
the seller's attorney that was originally involved in the deal, it like can't make a recommendation
no, I'm not sure. They had some kind of a falling out for some reason.
with
And
the seller's
yeah,
with
with
the
the
seller's
sellers.
attorney.
And I shouldn't say
Okay.
some reason. I know the reason was because the guy was terrible about relaying information in a timely manner. So they actually there was an issue with the escrow funds and stuff and delivery of notifications when they should have been delivered. And even this document he held for 8 days before passing on, but he was no longer representing them at that point.
Right.
But
Okay.
he had it, yeah. So there was a lot of issues with that attorney.
Okay. Um, and you've obviously reached out to who had the listing? Like,
The
did you pick the agent?
No.
Okay.
They had that already going, and it was actually under an LLC. That was that owns that property, and the son was
Oh,
the
so this was
represent.
not this property was not listed on the MLS. This is a private sale that was going on.
Yeah, they were getting ready to list it, and then they ended up having two people approach them, multiple offers.
Gotcha.
The place where it's at is incredibly sought after, and it's a very up and coming area, and they
Okay.
know that, and they've gotten offers on this house very
Okay.
easily without even trying. So.
All right. Does anybody have any connections there that might be able to help?
And even if not connections, like advice on how to handle like maybe inputting an extension or anything like that, just to give them a little bit more time to respond because they feel like they're just kind of at a loss. They don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the laws are there in Jersey,
Yeah.
but here, if you don't
Margareta,
respond,
did you
yeah.
have something?
Yeah, I'm working with a guy who does like a lot of business in Jersey. So where in Jersey is this?
It's in Newburgh or North Bergen.
North Bergen. I'll reach out to him. Can you text me that like city? Sounds like a complicated North
Yeah, I'm happy to
Bergen.
shoot it over.
Yeah,
Chester, maybe you can just put it in the chat.
yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there. Thanks so much, Margaret. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to my brother-in-law too. He lives in New Jersey and he knows lots of attorneys. So,
Thank
uh,
you.
Just in the chat, I'm seeing from Jen Sadie. Is there a buyer's agent involved, and has the buyer's agent given you any information, Chester? You're muted.
So the
Yeah.
buyer's agent is actually, and this is part of what my clients were concerned about going into this, but the son picked everyone. The buyer's agent is actually the wife of the attorney that was previously representing my sellers. So they don't have any contact with her. Obviously, they haven't been speaking to her, and everything's gone through the attorney, which is her husband. And I've also seen a few correspondences between the buyer's attorney and my client's attorney. That's where a lot of the communication is. So that's what I've been seeing through the email. But to answer your question, no, the buyer's agent hasn't talked to my clients at all.
Yeah, that is messy. That's as messy as it gets. Adam. You're
Hey,
muted.
what's up,
There you
man?
go.
Just a couple totally side comments here now that we brought up multifamilies. And it's just about expectations. And I'm not saying anything was done wrong here, but when you're the listing agent representing a multifamily with tenants, I'm probably the most pessimistic realtor to a fault when I'm working with sellers in terms of what could go wrong. And in this case, right, if I was selling a multifamily, I would let them know, hey, if this is our best offer and it requires us kicking out the tenants, I just want to let you know there is a chance that these tenants, move out, and then this buyer backs out, and now you're stuck with, a vacant unit. Now I would pitch it as potentially a good thing. They might think, oh my God, loss of income, how am I going to pay the next month's mortgage? So it's just setting expectations on what's the worst case scenario, because all of my sellers, when I'm listing a property, they basically expect to lose the first buyer. And guess what? If they don't, we look like a hero. If we do, hey, we typically don't lose the second buyer. So just something to keep in mind. Now, the good thing, and this brings me to my second point about having a vacant unit, is now if you were to remarket the property, you open yourself up to all the owner occupied buyers because they can move into the first floor. Whereas the first time around when you're marketing it, you might have been trying to market it with tenants in place. So it allows you to market to a different group of people. So it's not really a bad thing. People that typically will pay more, and an opportunity to get a little bit higher rent, right? So my understanding from a mortgage perspective, when you do not have a lease in place, it goes by market rent. Now, as a landlord, I was the type of landlord that said, if you pay me rent, I'm pretty much never going to raise your monthly rent. So when we sold our properties, our monthly rent was way below market average, which when you're dealing with a multifamily, it's typically not based on dollars a square foot. It's based on rental income. So the first thing is just setting expectations with your sellers that we might have to kick out the tenants and then lose the buyer. And the second thing is, when you're talking to multifamily owners, let them know that the value, unlike a single family, is typically derived based on market rent. So if if you're talking to them over Christmas and they're saying, hey, we might want to get rid of this multifamily, the higher that rent is at the time of listing, the higher that the value of that property is. That's just how businesses are like a multifamily is looked at. So just something to keep in mind. I mean, we had units at under $1,000 for 2 beds and 3 beds in Westfield. Where if we had higher rents, we maybe could have got more for those properties. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind.
There's a lot there to unpack, but there's just so many nuggets. Does anybody have questions on those different points? So I want to make sure you guys really understand the math of what he's saying. I've got a multifamily. Okay, I got 3 units in it. I've got the rents at $1,000 a month. That property brings in $3,000. So let's say at bringing in $3,000, that property qualifies for a $400,000 mortgage. Let's just say I'm using random numbers. Okay, but I've had those tenants in there for 5 years paying $1,000. If I was to empty it and put new tenants in, I'd get $1,300 a month, right? So now my annual or my monthly rent went from $3,000 a month to $3,900 a month. At $3,900 a month, the property now qualifies for a $500,000 mortgage, let's just say. I'm just throwing random numbers out there. I don't know what that actually qualifies for, right? But see the difference? Right? If we're buying this as a business, which is what multifamilies, that's what the mortgage company is looking at. And Eric, I don't know if you want to jump in on this or just validate what we're saying or add some additional color.
Yeah, you're definitely hitting the nail right on the head, both of you, with talking about the rents and things. And so if you had people in there renting at the 1,000, us from a mortgage standpoint, we're not going to care that market's 1,300. We're going to be like, there's only 1,000 coming in, and that is all we would be able to utilize towards future qualifying. But if those tenants were gone, even vacant, now we would be able to use the 1,300 per unit towards qualifying future income, which would qualify the person for a higher loan. So you're 100% spot on with that property being more valuable with the higher rents or even vacant, so we could use market.
Cool. So, and then the other thing I want to be really for you guys to understand. Adam dropped a little nugget in there. All of his sellers think they're going to lose the first buyer. That's not just because he happens to work with a bunch of people that are pessimistic. That's the expectation that he's setting at the kitchen table when he lists the property. So when that does happen, they were ready for that. Not, oh my God, how the hell did we lose a buyer? Hey, I told you this probably could happen, right? There's just a million ways that a buyer can get out of a deal. So we're probably going to lose the first one, but no problem. That's the way I prepare you guys. That's the way I go through these scenarios. We're prepared to potentially lose that first buyer. So we've already thought through this, right? We have a process for this. So it's really genius so that when it happens to you, it's not a shock. And then if it doesn't happen, like he said, you look like the hero. Hey, we're able to get the first one, lock them in, get our terms, and get this thing to the closing table. So some really, really good nuggets in there, man. Martin.
So just a quick question. Like the multifamily, every time I purchased a multifamily, I've always wanted it vacant. What do most investors want? Like, because I've dealt with ones that want them fully rented and ones that want them vacant. But what's the majority? I guess that's my question.
I don't think there's I would say it just depends on the investor. I would think most of them are taking, I don't know if anybody wants to chime in, but taking it with the tenants and dealing with how it comes, because the reality is getting them vacant. I think a lot of times it's difficult for the current seller, right? So the investor that's coming in is saying, hey, like, I know this is going to be difficult for you, so I'll just take it as is. Kind of like, I'll take the house with all the furniture and all the stuff in the basement, right? Like, as an investor, a lot of times I think the seller is just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I'll take it how it is. I understand that, you got a couple of tenants that aren't paying or whatever that I might have to deal with. That's been my experience. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in. I would say it's more often that the buyer, the investor is taking it with those tenants. And also the investors, not likely to, like Adam's saying, be an owner occupant. Anybody else want to just throw some different color on that one, or are we in agreement for the multifamilies that you've done? Martin, you can only ask one question. Go ahead, buddy.
Just what's going on with Shasta? Quick, are they basically trying to, like, because they try to do a bunch of fraudulent things before the sale? Is this just another? Are they just like scam artists that they're dealing with? I guess as far as the buyers, is it just a money grab to see if they can get some money so they to make them
So
go away?
apparently it came down to like, from my understanding, again, I think it had to do with their financing. We were talking about reporting rents and values and stuff. So they wanted my clients to show that my clients were collecting more rents than what they actually were. So it would reflect better on paper and they could secure a higher loan. And my clients had the same tenant in there for, I think they were almost 10 years, that tenant lived there. And they had this tenant move out because of the sale. So they'd never raised the rent for that tenant. So they were paying like, I don't know, like $900 a month, where current rents in that area for that unit they were renting were well over 2,000 or somewhere in that range. So they were really just wanting them to falsify reporting, these numbers just to help the buyer. And my clients were not willing to put themselves in that position.
So for coming back to, Adam's situation, if they hadn't done these repairs, then getting the property vacant and these same buyers moving forward, they might now have been able to qualify for that higher loan, right? Am I
Yeah.
right, Chad? Yeah. But the
Yeah.
problem is, in this scenario, they went and made a $200,000 investment into that property, and now they want a bigger number.
Yeah, no, so my clients, the sellers, they're the ones who put the money into
Right, that's what I'm
the
saying.
updates.
So now,
Yeah.
like, let's say they would have sold it for 700,000, and now they want 900,000 for it, and the buyers are like, "Yeah, we still have rights to the property at 700."
Yes, and that was another thing. The attorney that we were kind of chatting with that would be able to take it on with like this insane retainer. So they're considering, but that was the only one they'd spoken to. He even said, "I'm not even sure how we would settle this because my clients have dumped all of this cash into this home to get it to where it's better to sell and they can see their return and maybe make a little bit more off of it. And now these buyers currently want it, seeing what they've done to it and seeing all the updates and stuff like that. Now they want, and this is why it's weird. They were silent for 2 months. They didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, beginning December, they send them some kind of a letter just saying, hey, expect to hear from our attorney. And now we've got this complaint filed. So yeah, I think it definitely has to do with that.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what the angle is that they still think they have rights to the property if we have a signed termination. Have you seen the signed release and termination, Justin?
Yes, I have.
And you believe it to be valid? You
Oh, a
looked at
thousand
it.
percent. And actually, the
Yeah,
attorney, I've got like the correspondence from my client's attorney that was handling it. And he even says, I think it's best at this point that we both part ways because the sellers don't feel comfortable doing fraudulent acts to help you guys secure financing. And we'll be sending the cancellation. And then I saw a copy of the cancellation. Everything's signed, everything's valid, everything's correct. Somehow these buyers still think they have a case. So they're going to drag my sellers through court to get, I'm not even sure, honestly, what they're even after. I haven't really dug that far into it, but it was really just the counts against them that were really surprising for them to
yeah,
be charging them for fraud. It just didn't make sense because they were the ones asking for them to do fraudulent things.
crazy, crazy, crazy. Interesting. We had a lot of different angles here. So great, great share today. Did anybody have anything quick that they just needed answered? Because that ended up taking up the whole call today. So Jen.
I just wanted to comment on this situation. I'm sure that the sellers have already done this, but in case they have not, they really should sit down and write out everything on paper as far as like a timeline so that they don't miss anything when they're talking to their attorney or whoever is going to help them. Because for these people to ask for ask the sellers to do fraudulent things, all of that. And not only that, but as much email documentation as they can print out just to support their case. Like timelines of when everything was signed and all the deadlines, just everything. I just think that would be really
Yeah.
helpful for them.
I can tell you because I've been through so many different lawsuits over the years of just deals, and that's the first thing the attorneys are going to ask for anyway. Is I need a timeline. I need anything, any kind of documentation that happened along the way. So it's a great suggestion, Jen. You chefs, and if your clients haven't already started to do that, they definitely should because they're going to have to.
Yeah, they've got a Dropbox. And again, because there was a concern of like a conflict of interest from the get-go, they've been very well documenting everything. And a lot of it she had sent me through my follow-up boss. So it's all saved there too. And they've got their own files and stuff. Yeah, they're prepared.
Anybody else? Just a quick, you guys have a question or comments about this one? And that's just a general, always, if something is negotiated, you got to get it in writing. Get stuff in writing as often as possible, document it, save it to your files. Jen.
I'm driving right now, so I can't see if you responded, but I had written in the comments I don't know if you guys, because I know you said this is in New Jersey. I don't know if there's like a legal team at the your association in that
Well,
state.
she's not in, so she's dealing with them buying something down in Florida. So there was no realtor representing them on the listing side in New Jersey. So that so you can't go to the realtor association because it's not a realtor deal.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Although in theory, like if she was representing, even though you know, if you could still ask general questions, right? Like we could call here in Massachusetts, we can call the Mara legal team and throw a scenario out. Doesn't mean we have to have that existing scenario going. We could just call and get legal advice. And they'll, you know, they usually are going to give you on something like this. They're not going to really be able to help because they're going to say, we would need to see all the details and you're going to have to hire an attorney to do that. That's been our experience when we call the legal hotline for stuff like this. So, Margareta?
Just a thought, maybe she should contact, the sellers should contact like a broker and kind of consult with them about this deal because it's Jersey specific and they have different laws. So maybe a broker has seen something similar. They can guide them how that kind of works out or might pan out.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea either. I feel like we got a couple of people between yourself and KB that might be able to get some legal. I think we really just need to get this in front of an attorney that does litigation to look at it and see where is it that this buyer has a leg to stand on. I think that's going to be the ultimate place that we got to get to. So let's just finish up quickly with trainings that are available today. Let's take a look at the calendar. There it is. So we have the Real Estate Mastery Mastermind. We have an Agent Attraction Mastermind. How to deliver a 5-star buyer presentation. I haven't seen this one come up yet. That is at 2:00 Eastern time. And then Mastering the Art of Seller Services. Mastering the Art of Seller Services. So a couple of different training opportunities for you guys today. Appreciate all the input. What a great share today. Just hit so many different angles. So yeah, we got a holiday week next week. I am leaning towards we'll go Monday, Tuesday. We'll take the rest of the week off and we will come back energized. So that's what I'm thinking, Monday, Tuesday, and we'll take the rest of the week off. So go have yourselves a phenomenal weekend and we'll be back at it on Monday morning. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Have a good day,
weekend,
guys.
everyone.